What's your reaction to this news, Pablo?
I'm not saying that Michael Vick shouldn't have the opportunity to be a coach in the NFL. I am not saying that. I think he's done his time and redeemed himself and said all those things which are real. But I would like us to time travel back to 2008 and at least recognize how unlikely this seemed. And not only that, but let's recognize how this seems to keep happening in sports. There are all these guys who, in a moment in time, are irredeemable, whether it's Michael Vick or whether it's steroid users or Mike Tyson or whoever it is, and they find their way back into the American consciousness because turns out the American consciousness has the memory of a goldfish. And the thing that's especially interesting about our memory is that we like to not just have these guys back in our lives, we like to give these guys positions of authority. I'm not saying, again, that Michael Vick does not deserve it, that he wouldn't be a good coach, but I think of Mark McGwire being a bench coach for the San Diego Padres, or Barry Bonds being a hitting coach for the Miami Marlins. They're all irredeemable until suddenly they're the guys we can learn from. And that's where Michael Vick feels like I think he is today.
But see, it's interesting, though, because there's nothing about Mark McGwire to learn from because he only came clean about this to get a job, right? There's nothing to learn from with Barry Bonds where Loria and Miami like stars, and so he brought Barry Bonds in, and Barry Bonds ain't walked none of this back.
Except for the hitting.
Yeah, right. That's the thing. He's an all-time great hitter, right? But Vick is interesting, though, and I think he's different than those other two guys, that his path to redemption was straight on the football field. Like, he absolutely prostrated himself before everyone, and he continues to do so all these years later. Michael Vick, you put a quarter in him, he will apologize for something. He will apologize for you, whatever it is. That's a Michael Vick's job. The first thing I want to do to for y'all is apologize. Something happened. Don't even worry about what it was, but it is my time to apologize. Like, that is where he is. But the angle on this that's interesting is Andy Reid. Where Andy Reid, when Vick got the job in Philadelphia in 2009, was dealing with the stuff with his sons. There are all these stories about that element and changing the way he looked at this and how he might be able to help Vick. And then Vick got out there and then in 2010 was better as a quarterback than we had ever seen him be, which was part of that path. But the other thing with him is, again, he's always prostrating himself. But there are still people who hate Michael Vick to no end. And I am not sure there was anybody other than Andy Reid who would give him this position at this point in time, especially because nothing about Michael Vick's career indicated that he's the dude that you want to talk to about the finer points of quarterback.
The fundamentals.
Nothing about it all. Like, I think the last two times you saw Vick play was that time in Pittsburgh where he was about done. But remember when they pulled him off the bench to come in for Geno Smith, and he was like, whoa, I didn't think I was going to be
I'm not actually ready to be a starting quarterback was basically what he said.
The rap in Atlanta was he did not study his playbook and all of those things. So it is interesting, the idea that he wants to be a coach, where I think what will ultimately happen to him is he will be a cautionary tale on tour. He will be like the other side of the Tony Dungy element of this is, hey, man, we got a guy down here that's experiencing some problems. We think we could stand to get some insight from somebody with your wisdom. And then Michael Vick's going to show up and talk to whoever that person is.
So
haircuts for everybody.
So Michael Vick is on the John Lucas career track. I'm a guy with problems. I'm a guy who you send your guys with problems to because I can help them with their problems.
What do you think is more likely? Michael Vick as quarterback coach or offensive coordinator, or Michael Vick as traveling cautionary tale? Like, what do you think is more likely? So I hope this works for him if this is ultimately what he wants to do. I am just not sure that a team that does not have Andy Reid in a position of power is going to be the one to make this decision. Because when they do those lists of most hated players still, Michael Vick is still way high on those.
And we should also point out that we've had coaching interns before. We've had a female coaching intern who did not get a full-time job later, so there does seem to be some kind of social value, if not PR value, to bringing him in. But does the chastening of Michael Vick, you know, I think of, we talked about Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose had a famous brother, Reggie Rose, who would always seem to complicate things for him. Michael Vick has a brother named Marcus Vick. And one of the things that I've been doing, engaging this story, taking the temperature, what is Marcus Vick tweeting about? He's been pretty quiet. Which tells me that maybe there is a larger Vick family philosophy that says we are on our best behavior, top to bottom. Bring us in, or bring me in, Michael, and you won't have any issues to worry about ancillary to me.
Well, also, to be fair here, Marcus Vick might not have found out about this until he turned on First Take. Like, I mean, if I'm Mike, I'm not necessarily letting Marcus know of all these things. But I feel like Marcus Vick is going to react more to, like, on-the-field stuff. He's not going to be like, y'all need to stop blaming my brother because that guy didn't throw the ball on time. He's only the quarterback coach. Like, I think that we're good on Marcus for now. I hadn't thought about Marcus Vick until you said it. I hope you didn't talk him up.
Shout out to Marcus Vick.
Bomani, do you think that this is a genuine interest in coaching, or or is this still another step in the kind of readdressing his image,
Oh, no. I think it's a legitimate interest in coaching, if for no other reason than Michael Vick's probably got 35, 45 years of life left, and you got to have some way to fill it. And if you want to be around football, coaching is the way to do it. I think he is interested in it. I'd just be very curious to know how many people would be willing to hire him.
But now let me ask you this, because you're a Michael Vick fan dating back to your Atlanta Falcons days.
Yeah.
Is this disappointing at all? As a Michael Vick being a countercultural figure who was, I mean, the idea of Michael Vick being a coach as a player, as you alluded to earlier, was kind of a far-off notion.
Yeah.
And now he's trying to be a suit.
Yeah, I just saw Ice Cube saying, "Take me out to the ball game at Wrigley Field." Game changes. But overall, let us not forget, there's an attempt, macro, being made to, like, re-mainstream Michael
Correct.
Vick. The Falcons seem to be laying the groundwork so they can retire his jersey, because honestly, it would be disingenuous not to, except for that whole thing with the dogs, right? The NFL has tried to do its best to kind of put a shine on him because he's a significant figure in the history of the league, and you can't ignore it.
Yes.
But you also can't ignore the dogs, so they're trying to find a way to make this into a redemption story so that we could all appreciate Michael Vick without thinking about those dogs so much.
So you're saying that coaching internship under Andy Reid is Michael Vick starring in Daddy Daycare?
In a way, yeah. Are we
He's
there
warm
yet?
and cuddly now.
Are we there yet?
Are we there yet?
We'll have to just leave it there.